try to get it rolling. Good evening. I'll call to order the June 20, 2017 Frankfort Board meeting. Frankfort Plant Board has a regular meeting every month, third Tuesday of the month, typically at 5 p.m. And for the first time, I believe it's the first time, tonight's meeting is at the brand new administration building for the Frankfort Plant Board on Flint Avenue. Beautiful new facility. It should serve the community well for a long time. I will ask Kathy Poe, our executive assistant, if she'll call the roll of the board directors.
Member Ludwig?
Here.
Member Green?
Here.
Member Kuban?
Here.
Member Baldwin?
Here.
Member Rosen?
Here.
All right, we have 5 directors present out of 5 directors, so we have a full board this evening. We have a long agenda this evening, and I think if everybody cooperates and we move right along, I can have everybody out of here and safely on their way by 1 a.m. Okay, so first thing is, as usual, it's action on the minutes of previous meetings, and it seems like we've had lots of meetings. And so we have lots of minutes, and Kathy and the others have worked very hard to prepare them in a timely way, voluminous, lots there for the board members to read and brush over. There are four items specifically. I'll just mention them each briefly. One is for the minutes presented for the May 16, 2017 board meeting, also for the May 30, 2017 board meeting, for the June 6, 2017 special board meeting for the budget, and also for the June 6, 2017 special board meeting for public hearings. So there are 4 sets of minutes that have been prepared and presented and made available to all the directors. Do we have a motion of any kind pertaining to the minutes or group of minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve items 1 through 4.
Do we have a second?
I second it.
Okay. Any discussion? I gave them a very quick read, appears to me to be complete, and I'm happy to approve them. We can do this by acclamation. All in favor of approvals, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Hearing no no's, all 4 of the minutes as presented are approved. Next item, very important, of course. Number 5 is an action item. We're being asked to accept the electric, water, and cable financial and statistical data for May of 2017. That's pretty well, it's 11 months of the fiscal year, isn't it, through
Yes,
May?
sir.
So we're getting there. Okay.
We are. Good evening. Let's turn to page 42 of your board packet. Starting with the statement of net position, this is a snapshot where the plant board sat for the 11 months that ended May 31st, 2017. As Mr. Lovewood said, we are 11 months through our fiscal year that ends June 30, 2017. Just starting here, total assets, line 65, is $165,741,000. You can see we're up $11.3 million compared to last year, which is a good sign. We're reinvesting in infrastructure. You can see mainly the most of that increase is on line 45, increase in property, plant, and equipment, just under $117 million. We're up $8.6 million in that line item for the period, mostly due to the construction of this administration building. Most of our assets, up for 70%, are invested in property, plant, and equipment, so that's by far our largest concentration of assets. So we're up in assets. If you look for the year, the third column on line 120, we are just about break even for where we were last year in liabilities. Total liabilities of just over $83.9 million. So we're down $16.5 million in liabilities. On net position, you take your assets less your liabilities. Net position as of May 31st, 2017 was just over $81.8 million, bringing your total liabilities and net position to $165.7 million. So you can see we're up on increase in net position of 11.3 as well there on line 155. So feel like we're moving in the right direction. We still are showing that we're at about 100 days cash on hand and continue to increase that. So that's where we stand as of May 31st, but we can continue to increase our financial position and believe we're moving in the right direction there. I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have on that, but if not, I'd like to move over to our cash and investment schedule. This is a required report. It's required by our investment policy. Looking at page 43, this shows our restricted and unrestricted cash and investments as of May 31st, 2017. Looking at line 55, we had total restricted cash of just under $2.3 million. On line 100 of unrestricted cash of just under $14.9 million, bringing total restricted and unrestricted cash to $17.155 million. Restricted investments and unrestricted investments here in the bottom section. These are invested in certificates of deposit. We had unrestricted, I should take that back, restricted investments, line 135 of just over $9.3 million, and on line 145, unrestricted investments of just over $118,000, bringing total restricted and unrestricted investments as of May 31st to just over $9.4 million. I'd like to talk briefly about our bonds, leases, and loans payable for the period on page 44. We started the year out just over $47.6 million in bonds, leases, and loans payable. As you can see in the increases column, we did not take on any additional debt during this fiscal year through these first 11 months. Decreases, we've paid down over $3.7 million in principal on that debt, bringing our May 31st balance for bonds, leases, and notes payable to just over $43.9 million. As we pointed out during our budget meetings, two of the loans, I should say one of the Series 2009 bonds and also our FSN's consolidated lease, will pay off during this next 5 years, which is kind of part of our 5-year plan, as we've talked about. So we're moving in the right direction there as well. I would like to briefly talk about the financial performance of the company for these first 11 months. On page 45, just looking at the company-wide statement of revenue, expenses, and change in net position. On line 20, total revenues for the period, 11 months, $89.8 million. Total operating expenses on line 50 of just over $62.9, bringing our gross margin to just under $26.9 million. You can see all the expenses we have listed on pages on line 60 through 265. Total general and administrative expenses on line 270 of just under $20.8 million. Other revenue for the period of just over $2.5 million brings our total net contribution. This is the amount of revenue as it exceeds expenses of $8.6 million for this 11 months. I'd be glad to go in depth on any item you might want to go in depth on. I would like to point out that as we do each month, we've provided on page 49, starting on page 49, a statement of cash activity for all of our cash accounts. We show the activity that occurred within those accounts. And then we also have our two check registers for our two main active checking accounts for the review of the board as we send those out each week that we do check runs as well. But that's a real look at where we are through the year. We're better than expected. I think we did good in budgeting, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
I think what you said is true. I think we have done very well in budgeting over the last year. Budgeting is very, very good. Any questions or comments for David?
I move we accept the report, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second that. Discussion, Penny? If none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Hearing no no's. Financial materials submitted by David for May 2017 stand approved. Okay. Next item is also an action item. This is an annual item. Consider approval of the workers' compensation insurance renewal. And I see Charlie Hamilton, the sidekick here tonight. Okay. Who is going to present this item?
Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Kim Watson is not with us tonight,
Okay.
so it's substitute for her. She is over the safety program. The premium is 4.8% less than it was last year. It's the lowest the premium has been in the last decade. That's thanks to Kim's hard work, I think, and the work the folks do every day in the field to keep your injuries and so forth down. And staff recommends approval of the workers' comp policy.
Charlie, is there anything that you wanted to say to the board? Or?
I would just echo what Nancy's saying. Kim is a lot to be congratulated for, because the workers' comp mile dropped substantially because of your loss experience. And that's good. That's due to your excellent loss control and safety program that Kim heads up, and so we're very, very appreciative of it, and the insurance company is too.
I think safety is one of the best dollars we spend, is for
Yes, sir.
safety. Okay, members,
I move we approve the renewal policy, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
we have a second
We
discussion.
we don't have very many things that go down.
That's right. Always glad to see something go down. Okay, we've had a motion and we've had a second. Any discussion, any more discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. Hearing no no's, motion carries. Okay. Next item is our monthly information item, public comment period. If anybody cares to come to the podium and make a public comment, they're welcome to do so. We ask only that you identify yourself. Also, we want to know whether you're a plant board customer. You do not have to be a plant board customer. Just ask that you keep your comments concise. And, do we have anybody this evening? Okay, no takers. All right, so, okay. All right, move on to another regular monthly subject, and that is departmental reports, and this is all informational. Okay, Dana.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Board. If you'll turn to page 103, that's our website comments. We had 2 comments this month. On page 104 is our trouble call report. Trouble calls were down from this time of last year, except for customer education, that was up just a little bit more. On page 105, we had 2 network outages, one on Versailles Road that required replacing some cable. Silver Creek subdivision, we had a mainline splitter that went bad. And on our service penetration, classic cable was actually up a little bit above budget. That was good. Preferred down a little bit. Broadband down a little bit. Local phone was up a little bit above budget, so we're glad to see that. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Cable.
I wanted to, you notice starting on page 107, Harvey's away from Frankfort this week, and so I wanted to make sure that you folks had an opportunity to see some Cable Advisory Committee minutes, starting on page 107, running through page, 112, and then starting on page 113 is the monthly progress report from Engineering Associates. They're going to be in next week for about a day and a half or so on Thursday and Friday, and we hope to have a draft from them just after the 4th of July is what they talked about. On page 116 is Tanglewood mitigation update. I will say that there's one added thing to this. I put this together last week and submitted it, and Mr. Cubine and Ms. Rosen attended with us yesterday. We had for my opinion anyway, they may have their own opinions on it, but I think we had nearly 10 residents or so from Tanglewood, and we spent, almost 2 hours walking around the property, and I think it was time well spent. And so there's still a few property owners that haven't been able to have the opportunity to do a walk around, and we hope to work through Ms. Gray and provide them that opportunity maybe over the next week or so, or 2 weeks, or whatever their schedule is. Now, one last thing, as Hant said, Kim is away today, so I told her I'd stand in for her on the OSHA recordables and get to say there were no OSHA recordables for the month of May. And then on page 131, one vehicle accident, and I think this is why I got asked to do it, is cable van was sideswiped by a privately owned vehicle earlier in the month, and there were no injuries, but we had a little bit of minor damage to the vehicles. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to commend one of, I don't know if it's John, one of your employees, or the gentleman that was up there, and I didn't get his name, that was up there with the tape measure on Monday.
Oh, Wayne McDonald.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's our chief tech.
Wayne was out there, and one of the ladies who was there from Tanglewood, one of the residents, was talking about drainage problems she was having in her yard. And as I remember, he offered and told her that the next time it rained hard, no matter how hard it was raining, he would come to her house, come over there, and they would stand in that backyard and figure out where the water was coming from. And I mean, he was sincere. I mean, it was, you know, if you think we're part of the problem, I will come with you and stand out here, no matter what it takes to figure out where it's coming from. And I mean, I thought, and she genuinely appreciated it. I mean, he was,
No, it was a good meeting.
yeah.
And we appreciate you all being there, and if we have an opportunity for another one, I'll let you all know, and if you have time, come on by. Thanks.
Customer service. Monique.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The customer service reports are on pages 117 through 119. Some of the things that I'd like to note with those is that we had an increase from April to May in our total walk-in customers, about a 9% increase, as well as our total call volume. There is a mistake on the call volume report. It's showing about 10,000 calls. It's actually 7,015. Some additional information was pulled into the report that shouldn't have been pulled in when the report was run. However, there is still about a 13% increase over April, May over April call volumes. We had an exciting day yesterday, opening here at the new office, and I wanted to give you some of the stats from yesterday. We were able to pull those in earlier today. Yesterday, our customer service team processed and met with 146 walk-in customers. They processed about 520 calls, 250 in billing department, 270 in the service department. We had approximately 300 payments run through the drive-through, and they processed 563 payments through the mail-in depository. So I think they had an outstanding day yesterday. They worked extremely hard. We're here a little bit after hours, and I just think that they need a little bit of applause and accolade for that, because they worked very hard yesterday on our first day. I'll answer any questions you may have.
What was people's reaction to the drive-through?
Most people liked it. Most people liked it. There were a few comments, that both sides weren't open, but we only have one drive-through person at a time, because we did have somebody that was on vacation this week, so we only had one person to process drive-through payments. But for the most part, everybody that went through the drive-through, I was back there quite often and just heard comments about people saying it's cool, it's nice, I'm glad that I don't have to get out of my car, and I know that I get my receipt right now as opposed to using the drop box. So we had a lot of good comments about it.
And is that new drop box, Herbie, in front of the old administration building? It's out there on the curb on the front. Is that ours or the city's?
That drop box belongs to the plant board at the old downtown office. And we'll keep that drop box in service. In the next few months, we'll probably take it out of service for just a day or two for some maintenance and some fresh paint. But we'll have 2 drop boxes here at the new building and also at the old location where it's been for many, many years.
Thank you.
Electric.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name's Mark Harrod again. I'm here on behalf of Scott, who's absent today. If you'll start on page 120, you'll see where our pie chart starts for the electric department. We had a total of 33 outages for the month of May. One of the biggest outages we had, of course, was out on Shady Lane. We had a tractor trailer hit into a pole and take out the majority of Shady Lane, so you'll see that on the list on page 126. The total number of customers affected on those 10 largest outages there were 261. Our yearly average SAIDI number is 33.7. That's right now, so I'll answer any questions that y'all might have.
I guess this is a good time for more kudos, sir, for what
I'll say.
what y'all did and that John's department did on Sunday night.
Thank you. Those guys worked hard.
I understand y'all had a real long night.
We did. Some of them got to go home by 5:30 Monday morning. Long enough to take a shower and be back to work at 7. So.
Okay. Well, I got to observe some of that firsthand, and it went really well. I was impressed.
Thank you. We have some really, yes.
And we're enjoying our new LED streetlight.
Good. Good.
They are nice.
Thank you all.
All right, let's see, what's next? SEPA.
Mr. Chairman, if you'll turn to page 127 in your board books, you will see that in the far right-hand column, we had a loss of $16,175 in SEPA this month. If you look at the very bottom box, left-hand corner, you will see that we got on average $33.94 a megawatt hour. And on the right-hand side of that box on the bottom, you'll see that the energy actually cost us $41 a megawatt hour. So that's the reason for the loss. As I've stated for many months, we're not getting as much in the market as what we're paying for SEPA.
All right, KYMEA.
Mr. Chairman and the board, the last KYMEA meeting was May the 25th. That meeting consisted of a number of things. Primarily, they were updates on transmission service, the financials, risk management policies that are required for market transactions that'll be coming up, kind of somewhat housekeeping matters, if you will. A few things of note at that meeting was the election of officers. The motion was made to maintain the current officers we have. The current chairman is Ron Hurd from Corbin Utilities. The vice chairman is Josh Callahan from Barberville. The treasurer is Terry Nolte from OMU. And I got stuck again with the secretary duties. And so those are the officers of KYMEA. They also approved a budget. Certainly for an early organization, there's not a lot of detail to the budget. It's primarily consists of a lot of consulting type things. On the 8th, I think Herbie sent you an email with a lot of detail breakdown on that and some of the assessment chart, well, all of the assessment charges up to that point and what makes up the budget for that. We also selected a search firm to assist in the hiring of a CEO. They chose Mykoff and Prowse. So that was kind of the bigger items that we did in May. One thing I wanted to remind you about is if you go to our website and you click on the electric page and you scroll right down, you can hit the KYMEA board meetings. And if you click on that, you actually end up on the KYMEA board portal. It's the public part of that portal. And every meeting KYMEA has had since its inception is on there, so you can pick, for instance, I picked the meeting that we'll be having coming up on the 22nd, which is this Thursday. That agenda is on there with the supporting documents, whatever they may be. And so, again, every publicly available document and all the information for KYMEA is available. I just wanted to refresh your memory on that.
Are the videos posted somewhere?
No, the videos are done with the board members if board members call in or dial in to do the video. Otherwise, they don't have the video. So no, they're not placed any particular place. So anyway, refresh your memory on that. And again, as I said, the next meeting will be this Thursday, the 22nd at 10 a.m. Central Time in Bowling Green, Kentucky at Bowling Green Municipal Utilities. Some of the things on that agenda for the coming month is we will discuss the E3 recommendations as we've seen them so far, and any other information or recommendations that come out of the meeting tonight, we will put those on the portal as well, and KYMEA will discuss those and what action to take from that. So that will be on there, I'm sure. We will also have an agenda item to discuss the confidentiality policy that currently is in place. Some of the board members have expressed interest in streamlining that and making that easier for board members to receive documents. So that will be something that we will take up. It is currently on the agenda. And the executive search status, we'll talk briefly about that. Some of the things that will need to be ironed out in the near term will be compensation, benefits, office location. I know Frankfort has made suggestions of KyMEA locating to this facility, so that's something that will be discussed in that meeting as well. So anyway, those are kind of the major items that are on the portal for the meeting coming up. And again, that's this Thursday at 10 a.m. Central Time. I'll be happy to answer any other questions you might have on those items.
Okay. Safety, we've already discussed safety, I think. Okay, water distribution. Alan.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Water distribution reports on pages 132 through 134. We had 7 main breaks and 5 outages, and then 2 just kind of informational items. The reservoir, we've completed the inspection on the north basin. We're currently draining the south basin, hoping to inspect it Thursday just for our annual inspection. So should have it back in service by Monday, completely back in service starting next Monday. And then we also did get an opportunity to dig up St. Clair Mall. Not really that it's an opportunity, but we had to do it for a customer. So we did install the infrastructure for one of the water fountains, so that at a later date, when maybe after July 1, when we purchase one, we can put one down there on the mall.
I was impressed by how big a job that was down there.
That was my concern
Yeah,
with putting one down there in the first place, that it's a mess.
So will the water fountain go near where the hole is?
Yes, it will go pretty much right in the center of where the hole is. And kind of halfway between the brick and the.
Is that a concern for the easements that business has for that sidewalk access?
We will actually put it not on the sidewalk part, but out in the brick out front, where I think there was actually an ashtray right there out there and the table's a little further down, but we're going to have about a 6x6 area around the water fountain.
Could we maybe pull that cafe permit and make sure we're not imposing on the permit that business has for access?
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, water treatment plant. Julie?
Good evening. The water treatment plant report is on page 135 in your board package. In May, we treated roughly 279 million gallons of water. That averaged 9 million gallons of water a day for the month of May. And if you note on the graph, we have been somewhat consistently producing more water this year than we did last year, so we're on a good trend. The flows in the river have been good, a little bit under 9,000 cubic feet per second, still running about 5.7 billion gallons of water a day. So it's kind of hard to imagine that's what's coming down that river on a normal day. Rainfall helped that. We had 4.5 inches of rain here locally. As I understand it, we're going to be seeing a little bit more of that this weekend. So that's my board report. If you have any questions, happy to answer any. Thank you.
Admin building. Sharmista?
Good evening. As you're well aware, we finished moving out of the downtown office on Friday and officially opened for business yesterday. I think overall the transition is going very well, and one of the first items on my list was what Monique has already mentioned, that customer service has done a great job managing the flow of the customers in this new space. There was a lot of planning involved, and customer service has been with me since the beginning to get ready for this transition. So I felt like everything went really well yesterday. And also want to thank Kathy Lindsay. She organized a great welcoming of our guests to this new building yesterday. So I think everything went really, really well. And now that we're at the point that construction is complete, we're in the warranty period, and right now the contractors are addressing issues as they arise. I no longer will have a construction update for you, so this will be my last departmental report. And I just want to start with, there's a lot of thank yous, and I can't list everybody. I would love to say everybody that's been involved, but I would literally have to list almost the whole company, I think, because everybody's been involved since the beginning. But I want to thank my supervisors, first of all, for giving me this opportunity to manage this project. Thank you to the board for your direction and helping us finalize the details as we reach the project completion. And like I said, a huge, huge thank you to my coworkers. I work with an amazing group of people, and it was our project. It was always the company's project, our project. Everybody treated it as their own. They have done everything that needed to be done, and they continue to do so. Now that we're occupying the building, we're still nonstop. Everybody's still nonstop, just making sure everything gets to where it needs to be and everything continues to flow smoothly. And some of you know that I've leaned on some people a little heavily than others, and you each know who you are. So thank you to you as well. And I also want to give a great acknowledgement to GRW Design. They work diligently with us to determine our needs, design this building around our needs. And thank you to Marilla Design and Construction for bringing that design to fruition and bringing us to where we are today. We started off this project. Our focus was to improve the customer service experience, and I think we're doing that, and I look forward to seeing us do that from here forward. And just thank everybody again for everything you've done for part of this project.
Thank you, Sharmista. All right, that concludes the information reports. We have an action item number 9. Consider accepting and taking action on the report from Energy and Environmental Economics. Okay. Anybody going to present this, or?
I move we accept the report, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Just that we accept the report?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We have a second?
Yep.
Discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no.
No.
Hear one no. Do I hear more than one no? Hear one no. And motion carries.
And my second motion, Mr. Chairman, regarding that, on that item, I think it'd be the appropriate time is, I think in front of you have a list of motions, and there's actually 11 of them.
Yes.
And basically what it is, and I would like to, first I'd like to say, the KyMEA agreement for us over a projected 10-year term is about a $500 million deal. So it is a huge issue for the city and a huge investment. And I think we'd be remiss because, we've had a lot of discussion about KyMEA, and it's obviously very important to this community. And I think at times it might look like we're being critical or not appreciative of the work Kirby and Vin have done on this. But it's like any other major agreement. We took the opportunity, and I think E3 was a good opportunity to step back after we've signed it, after things were settling down, to kind of see where we were and moving forward. And I think it's given us some issues to follow up on, to take the current agreement and make it a better agreement. What these questions are is basically to request KyMEA to review these various items and respond back to us and give us their comments. And you notice the one date in there is August 4th, and the reason that was picked is I think Vin had told me they don't meet till this week, and then by the time they get this information, they're obviously going to have to go through a process. And then the best possible speed, I think, would be for them not to give us a final report with all the responses, but some indication in early August, the areas where they think they might need more information or where they think they're going to pursue, or areas they don't think are feasible. So then we come back in August, we can kind of see where we are. But these actions are authorized not to take any action other than, I think it's very important on a couple of them, and Vin even mentioned things like the headquarters, things like that, which I think could be a big plus for this building, for this community. And I think some of these are, things that are obviously pretty imminent in terms of KyMEA. But basically these motions, and we can take them one by one, or I'd move, Mr. Chairman, we just take all 11 as a group and say, we'd like KyMEA to review these, consider them, and get us a response back, at least a preliminary response, at the earliest possible date, and August 4th, if at all possible, so that at that point we can kind of see we were evaluated and determine what next steps might be. So I would move that we adopt motions 1 through 11 as a group and submit these to KyMEA, and that way Vint could present them and discuss them this week, this week in Bowling Green.
Second.
Okay, discussion?
Yes, I do. I have, KyMEA is a work in progress, just like other things are when you have something of this magnitude. I don't feel like that it was wise for us to spend $45,000 for someone in California to come to Frankfort and tell us that we have a good contract, and to tell us that we're going to save money, to tell us that the renewables are not practical at this point in time, according to her, and that she suggested that we take a minimum amount of risk by having the contract that we have now, as opposed to trying to buy power on the open market. That way you're casting dice, you don't know what's going to happen. So those three things that she brought to the board, I think were positive. Anything else, which is these motions that you have here, most of which would have been taken care of by the board for KyMEA.
You're saying that they would have taken care of these things without having done the study?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I thought E3, Michelle brought up some good points that hadn't been fully considered.
For example?
Well, more direct contact with E3 in terms of setting rates and working out details of purchase agreements. Up to this point, we haven't really considered renewable energy. I mean, we have some power purchase agreements that have come into us, but we haven't gone through those and evaluated them.
Well, she apparently evaluated them and said at this point in time they're not practical. They're not economically feasible. But now we still have in our contract that we can have renewables when they become feasible.
Plus, we weren't able to review the RFP responses. They weren't shared with us from KyMEA.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, may I address that? I'm the attorney,
Yes,
Charles
sir.
Bussett for
Yes,
KyMEA.
Mr. Nelson.
And if you don't mind, could I have a moment just
Yes, sir.
to answer
Yes,
that
sir.
question? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, I appreciate you all letting me have the opportunity to say it. Mr. Baldwin, I appreciate what you just said, but you know that's not true. The information.
It's absolutely true. We don't have those RFPs.
Yes, you do.
Our attorney has them, and they've not been made available to us
And-
because of the confusion over the
And
NDA.
I
So
understand that, but-
the board and
Sir.
our consulting resource did not have those reports to consider. And that's what I said, and that's a true statement.
All right.
Please
But your board had
please
it.
don't mischaracterize anything
But your
further.
board's attorney had the information and had it the day after the last meeting of KyMEA. Now, KyMEA has a confidentiality policy that it adopted in December of 2015 to make sure that all the members of KyMEA got the most available responses to RFPs, with the understanding that the information that these people put before KyMEA would be held in a confidential fashion, so that they would not necessarily upset other customers and would not necessarily show their hand when it came to bidding process. Now, we adopted a policy in December of 2015. It's a very simple policy. It says first of all, if a director of KyMEA sees the information, they must hold it as confidential. If any board wants to see that information, they must merely sign an understanding, a non-disclosure agreement that that is confidential information and will not be given out to others, but will be used for the board's own purpose. Now, that's an existing policy we have. We understand that there are some concerns that is a lot of work to have to sign a non-disclosure agreement to get that information. We are actually going to look at revising that policy, that if the Frankfort Plant Board were to adopt a similar policy, the information can flow directly to them. Now, that information has also been available at our board meetings in confidential, in closed sessions. And I know that you all have
had representatives from this board in those sessions. So it's always been there. Nobody's trying to hide anything from the Frankfort Plant Board or any other member of KYMEA. It's totally open. We're very pleased that you all did the E3 study. We're going to look at it tomorrow. We're going to take a look at it, look at the recommendations, and respond to the Frankfort Plant Board. I have not seen the motion, Mr. Kuban, but I can guarantee you if you would introduce it tonight, even if it did not pass, I would ask for a copy and ask the board to look at it, because that is something that is coming out of the one of its members. And I know your individual directors on the KYMEA board would present those as well. So my thought is it would be wonderful tonight, instead of adopting this resolution, hand it to us and say it was introduced, these are some concerns, and would KYMEA take a look at it, and please respond as quickly as possible. And some, I can guarantee you, they will respond by August 4th, if not earlier. Frankly, some it may not be possible to answer that quickly, but they will get back to you and get back to the board. And one other thing, we urge every board member here to come to our meetings. I know, Walt, you've been there. I know Anna Marie has been there. And we urge all of you all to come and sit and watch these directors work. They work for 7 hours straight in these board meetings to do the best they can to get the lowest possible cost to the customers of the Frankfort Plant Board and all the other members that are out there. So I didn't mean to take up too much time, Mr. Chairman. I know you all have got a very long meeting. I see your agenda. But I did want to just make sure that there is nothing that KYMEA is attempting to hide from any of its members. And that we want to be as open and responsive to you all, to any questions you have. And as I said, it was very nice, the opportunity to meet with the consultants last week. Frankly, I wish we'd had more time before the report was issued, because I think we could have gone back and forth with the consultants and actually generated they could have generated even a more full report to this board. So.
I had, go ahead.
Let me state for the record, the information that a member of this board was seeking was presented to me as this board's attorney on the condition that it not be transmitted by me to anybody unless and until this board saw fit to sign an agreement which had been drafted by KYMEA. As of now, regardless of the merits of any of that, regardless of that, as of now, this board has not seen fit to enter into any such agreement, but they may or may not in the future. So that information has not been transmitted to anybody by me.
And I appreciate Mr. Liebman doing that, because it was given to the board as quickly as possible with the understanding that we have policies that have to be honored.
So the bottom line is this board does not have the information, and I guess we're at an impasse of sorts based on those terms.
Okay, I guess I'm slightly confused because I thought when Walt and I joined the board that we signed non-disclosure agreements, but maybe not with KYMEA. But the consultants came and we talked with people, and I thought we had an agreement at that time.
Those were, there was a non-disclosure agreement regarding the evaluation of the RFP that were done in 2015 and 2016. Mm-hmm. The request that was made recently was for a copy, not of the evaluation reports, but a copy of the entire responses delivered in respect to the renewable RFP that was issued in March of this year. Mm-hmm. All the responses that were received in response to the natural gas combined construction RFP that was issued in April of this year. And then recently, in the last week or so, there was a request for all of the responses for the 2015 and 2016 RFPs. None of that was ever put into an NDA. And so we drafted an NDA to put all of that information. We actually redrafted it because we put the 2015 and 2016 request in there as well, so that the board only had to sign one. And all that information, the 2015 and 2016 responses are being pulled and put onto thumb drives because they're a huge amount of documentation. But it's there's as soon as we can meet our confidential information policies, show that they have been met, the board is prepared to say, here, they're yours, okay? So.
Thank you.
But anyway, we certainly, even if the board does not approve the resolution, Mr. Kuban, I will take a copy of it and make sure that the board receives it tomorrow. I know Bent will be there, or not tomorrow, Thursday. Bent will be there as the director. I'm sure he will bring it as well. Okay. So
I guess I would only add that, over this experience, we've certainly found the timing and the difficulty of getting information to be prohibitive to understanding what's going on, which is why we've asked to have those policies streamlined so that there's not an additional barrier every time we need to get some information.
I fully agree, and I've actually, the board is going to take that up on Thursday. I don't know of any reason why the board would not accept the proposed streamlining that we're talking about, so that it would automatically come. Assuming, understand, all documents would have to be marked confidential. There's certain things that would have to be done, but yes, it would flow fairly.
And I guess the other confusion there is that when we were presented with the PPAs back last summer, the assertion from the consultants that presented those to us is that as we were a member of KyMEA, we were a party to any NDA that they had signed. And it wasn't until a few days ago that we were made aware of this policy that had the additional NDA language.
Well, I mean, the NDAs that the consultants signed, or any NDA that KyMEA signs with a responder, doesn't mention any of the individual members. And I don't believe the KyMEA has the ability to lock this board into something that they may not want to do. That's why we asked for an additional NDA to be signed by the board, so that you all know what you're entering into, not KyMEA on your behalf.
And that's counter to the understanding we had last summer.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. The policy's been in existence, is actually on the website, on our portal website, and has been there since 2015. And it was there primarily because we had a member who was submitting a response, and there was a lot of concern about whether or not they would see information from other responders. Okay.
Well, hopefully we're able to streamline that process.
I think it will be on Thursday. So, sorry, Mr. Chairman, didn't mean to take too much time.
Thank you.
And I'd just like to mention, because Dr. Green, I've got obviously the greatest amount of respect for you, and I understand your concern. And I mean, I hated that we had to spend the money for E3 also, the $45,000, and it's not a paltry set of money, but as I mentioned, it is a $500 million deal potentially, and there are issues that were brought up, and I think you're exactly right. E3 pointed out a lot of very positive things in the contract, but there are things like excess capacity, whether what's the best option to pursue on SEPA, and some of those things that I think they're on the table, and we have to make sure at the end of the day, and maybe we can't get a better deal, maybe this is the best we can do, but I think we owe it to our customers that if it takes spending $45,000 and adopting these 11 actions to flush that out, then I think we owe it to our customers to go through this process. And it may come back that we say we've done the best, this is where we need to be, but if there's things we can do, tighten up some things, because the excess capacity in particular bothers me, because it could have an impact if we can't sell that energy. Those capacity charges could impact what savings we have. True, it's not a take or pay, but there are capacity charges. So I think we owe it to our customers to go through this process, let KyMEA look at it, and then at that point, I think there's other decisions that have to be made, but I think it's premature to even know where we are till we ask KyMEA to evaluate these. So I mean, like I said, in respect, Dr. Green, I still move that we adopt these 11 and ask KyMEA to review and respond.
Well, you've got one here, but I'm certainly opposed to, and that is to extend the E3 contract to provide continued assistance.
Well, I think it makes sense.
I don't know that we need to extend the contract after we already paid them $45,000.
Well, I would only counter that in one. I think it's interesting that if we get a response from KyMEA, that we will afford E3 the opportunity to come back and say, yes, that takes care of it, or that's a problem. And I think it's unfair to characterize E3 as we brought people in from California, because our other consultants aren't from here either.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're out of state already. Where they're at in geography kind of becomes kind of a moot point in terms of the map.
Yeah, and I should add on that, we did consider 5 different
Firms that bid,
companies.
yes. And they gave us the most competitive price, quickest turnaround, and had the highest, I guess, they were tied for the highest technical score. So they had a strong proposal. And they were the ones that offered to come in here, get this turned around quick, get us back something so we could, because I think what we all want to do, and in fairness to Vin and Herbie, I think what we've got to do is go through these issues, get them resolved, and then move on. Because I don't think we need to keep dragging it out. I agree. And we need to put these issues to rest and see where we're at and then go from there.
Well, who came up with these 11 recommendations?
I worked on some of them, and I asked Walt for any comments he had. I incorporated them in and sent them to Kathy today without Walt seeing the final product.
Any other board members involved in it?
No, sir.
You think it should have been?
That's what we're here for. Now, we can debate each one of them. We can vote them individually. I have no problem with that. I mean, I was thinking in the sense of time, we don't need to go through 11 individual votes, but I'm more than willing to do it.
Well, 3 years ago, over 3 years ago, FPB joined together with some 9 or 10 of its sister cities and formed the KyMEA, and hundreds, maybe thousands of hours of work have gone into KyMEA by many, many very talented, conscientious people to get us to this point. We are now only 22 months from flipping the switch for our new power, and we've got to have it. Time's getting short. The steps that we made are very complex, a lot of steps to go, a lot of things have to get done. And then I get this motion, and I read all this, and I think if we handed this to Duke Energy, they'd be hard pressed to do all this. There's a lot of demands here. They're stated as requests, but they're really demands, and
Well,
it's involved.
but
Let me finish. Okay, let me finish. I don't want to derail KyMEA, cause it to bog down, get off its schedule. It's going to hurt us badly in the long run. And I've heard the gentleman, KyMEA, our attorney, and he's spoken in what I think is very good faith and honestly. And he's saying, I'm going to be with KyMEA, we're meeting earnestly, give us the list. Just give us the list, and we'll think about it. We'll talk about it. But we don't like demands. And I agree. I don't think we should demand anything. And that's the spirit I get out of this is we're demanding a lot of stuff, and some of it's pretty complicated. It's going to be hard to comply with some of these things. So for that reason, I'm not in favor of the motion, but I am in favor of relying on Mr. Muslin's good faith, and we give him the list, and he's going to go to the board, and he'll speak up for us. I don't know. I guess where we are is we've got a motion, we've got a second, we've had some discussion, and the motion was to present the written motion that you prepared.
Yes.
So I suppose it comes down to we do this formally as a motion, or do we give him the list and as he indicated that
Is
he
this a
would.
motion to present the list to KyMEA?
Yes, sir. And for them to, and if you notice in the first sentence, it says, we ask for a preliminary response by August 4th, not the final response, because we recognize some of these are going to take more time. We recognize some maybe easy fixes like you'd indicate, Mr. Munson, on the NDA. So, but I think, you know, in order to keep the process moving and bring it to a resolution, that we need to set some type of time structure. And I think the other thing that's important is, and in all fairness to you, Mr. Munson, greatest amount of respect, the five of us all took an oath to this community. Mr. Munson's the attorney for KyMEA, and I have no doubt whatsoever in his good faith. But in all fairness, you may not be their attorney tomorrow, or a week from now, or 2 months from now. We're still going to be here. And we're going to be held accountable for what we do today, tomorrow, 2 months from now, a year ago. And I just think that this needs to be on the record, and we need to document that from our duty, that we've asked every tough question we can, and this is the best deal for our community. I mean, we're looking at something that runs initially through 2025, 2030.
29, yeah.
And that's long after our terms are all gone. The future people on this board are going to inherit what we do today. And I just think we have to be able to look back, because we all know how public policy goes, and somebody 4 or 5 years from now are going to say, what in the world did they do and why did they do it? And I think we need to be able to stand up and say, look, we had consultants come in, we got a second opinion, we asked the tough questions, we had the answers presented to us, and decided a course of action that from everything, all the information we had available to us, we felt was the best option for this community. And I just feel it's important that we go on record, and I appreciate Mr. Munson's offer to take it informally, but, you know, and I understand what you're saying, Ralph, maybe from a tone standpoint, but it's not intended to demand by this date you take this, but each one of these things says, these are things that were brought up or things we're interested in, and please tell us as quickly as possible if you think these things are feasible. If not, tell us why they're not.
Why should we direct the board attorney to select the counsel for review of KyMEA documents? All we do is review.
No, I'm talking about that I think we need, you know, we have the same counsel right now for KyMEA and for all the members, and drafting all the documents and reviewing all the documents. And I think we need to have the option to have someone who's got expertise in this area to review some of these, because I think, as Mr. Munson pointed, there are countless documents and contract provisions and interpretations, and I think we need that kind of review.
We
Now,
have
if
a board
James,
attorney and we have a staff attorney.
and if they say they can review these contracts and issue legal opinions on them, I've not heard that said before.
Depends on what the board would like to.
No, I know the question is the expertise. Do you feel like you have the expertise to review Spiegel's work and comment on it? And say it's good or bad, or rewrite their contracts?
To rewrite the contracts for us, no. Not for KyMEA. I represent the plant board.
Right. And that's what, and I have no concern. I suggested the board attorney, I could care less where that expertise resides in the agency, but I think we need that kind of access to that review. Because let's say, just for example, say KyMEA comes back and says, we're going to do 9 of these 11 things, and we say that's great. And they come back and say, here's all the contract, and we've revised 200 pages of contract language, and it does what you want it to do. Who's going to tell us that's what it does? That's just my point. I don't think we need to add another attorney to the staff, but I think when we have these kind of complex contract documents in this kind of issue, we need to have some expertise to go to and say, does this do what we ask it to do? And if they say yes, or they say no in section 13, this doesn't do that, then we need to know that.
There are people who are out to wreck KyMEA and FPB's participation. And I sense some of that here.
Well, I can tell you from my standpoint, that's certainly not the case.
I look at it, KyMEA is in a formative stage, and we're a big part of KyMEA. And as John pointed out, we have a financial commitment here.
Right.
And by saying that the board is in favor of doing these things, it gives legitimacy to our request. It isn't just a passing thing. It's something that we take seriously. And the direction it goes affects plant board for the next 10 years or more.
And I would second that. You know, the goal here is not to destroy anything. The goal here is to find an optimal solution for the power for our community for decades to come. And there are serious questions pointed out in the report we got back from E3, and of any time to address them before 2019, and we start receiving power and paying ratepayers money through to KyMEA, you know, now's the time.
Well, I just feel like the KyMEA has a lot of brain power, and I just don't feel like we need these outside contracts with the brain power that we have with those municipals. That's just,
Like I said, I'd always also point out that it's not outside voices. It's a consulting company and a project that was adopted unanimously by this board. E3 is a representative and their only allegiance is to the desires of this board and community. They have no interest other than our community's self-interest.
So what are we really talking about here? Is the motion is to submit this formally, or whether to submit it informally to Mr. Mustin.
My motion is
Basically
to
what it
adopt
comes
it
down
formally
to.
and submit it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not, in no reflection, is in any way not appreciating your offer, Mr. Minister, but I think if we paid money for E3 to come in, we owe it to that money we spent and to us to get a formal response to what we basically paid for and to get their response. We've accepted the report. We're asking for KyMEA to formally respond to the recommendations. So we've not adopted those recommendations, but what we're saying is, we'd like some responses on these things.
I don't think we accepted the response, did we?
We accepted the report.
It was part of,
In our first motion on number 9, we accepted the report, which we've done numerous times before. Accepted it doesn't adopt it to implement it.
Right, okay.
It just accepts the report.
and that report included resolutions.
And I have to wonder if KYME is gonna have to hire people just to comply with this.
I wouldn't think for a response that they ought to be able to answer those without any, and I would submit that we're paying for those responses already. We're paying money to KyMEA. We're paying for that expertise, and I would think they ought to be able, most of these, they ought to be able to respond back fairly quickly as, yes, we do this, or this is a problem, or this would trigger this problem. Mr. Munson raised a good point. There's a couple ways you could go at it. We could have had an extended exit period with E3 with KyMEA and done exit responses like you do in an audit, or you could basically have them come in. They did spend an extensive amount of time for 2 days meeting, and then come back and say, okay, we got the report. The public deserves to see it, and now we need to get down to the business of wouldn't this report make sense for this community and what doesn't.
Okay, are we ready for a motion? Excuse me, for a vote on this? Okay, we'll take this by member. A vote yes is to formally submit this list of motions to KYME. A vote no is to not do it, still do it informally. Okay, call the roll, please.
Member Cuban?
Yes.
Member Baldwin?
Yes.
Member Green?
no.
Member Rosen?
Yes.
Member Ludwig?
No. 3-2, motion carries. We're on to the next item. I think I can find it. So the paperwork multiplies like bunny rabbits in the springtime when you work on the plant. Next item is number 10 on the agenda. It's an action item. Consider approving proposed retail electric rate increase to be effective July 1, 2017.
Mr. Chairman, as we are talking about a rate increase, and that's, again, is something no one enjoys having to do, but obviously sometimes it becomes necessary. I will just kind of read the statement. I think it's the most concise and full way to state the facts for the viewers at home or anyone that may be watching. Starting in 2009, Kentucky Utilities, with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC's approval, they instituted an annual formulated rate mechanism that allowed KU to change the wholesale electric rate charged to the Frankfort Plant Board based on KU's actual charges incurred. Frankfort Plant Board is notified of the new rate every May with an effective date of July 1 of that same year. This year, KU has notified the municipal customers of a total estimated 7.08% wholesale rate increase, including projected ash pond cleanup costs. That's effective for energy used from July 1 of 2017. Due to these annual rate changes from KU, and in keeping with good utility practice, the Frankfort Plant Board conducts periodic cost and cost allocation reviews by means of a cost of service study. These reviews ensure that the Frankfort Plant Board's retail rates generate adequate revenue based on consideration of wholesale power cost, operating expenses, as well as adequate working capital and reserves. Based on the most recent electric cost of service study, which was approved by the board in May of 2013, this 7.08% KU increase will translate differently for FPB's various customer classes, but generally, depending on the class, it will be between 5.2 to 5.9%, again, depending on what the cost of service said the different classes needed to maintain fair and equitable rates. As a matter of course, the board approved the notice of a public hearing on May the 16th of 2017, and a public hearing was conducted on June 6th of 2017. No oral or written comments were received from the public hearing. Staff recommends that the board approve the proposed electric rate increase effective for July 1 of 2017. And as a reminder, this increase will cost $6.71 per month to the average residential customer. That's what the increase would be.
In the bottom line, Fifth, that KU has passed these on, and we're simply passing on KU charges, and there's really no option we have, is there?
If we don't pass this rate increase, we'll go into the red on the first month.
I move we approve the rates, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Discussion.
I do have one quick question, Ben.
Yes, sir.
On what, it's a small thing, but on 185, one of the rate increases is for the LED light. What drives the cost increase for the LED light installation?
Currently, the LED lights, since we don't have very many in the system, they're just in at the equivalent light that's not an LED. For instance, the 91 watt LED is replacing a 250 watt. It's just in there right now. When we do the next cost of service study, which we're going to wait until we have the new rates and the KyMEA things going, or it would kind of be a waste of money right now. But as soon as we get all that stuff information in, we'll do a new cost of service study, and then rates would come in related to what LED costs would be, and I would expect that rate would go down. The fixtures cost more, they use less energy, but the fixtures are higher, so we'll see, but I expect that to be different going forward. Yes, sir.
About how much higher are they, like twice as much, or roughly?
Yeah, they're about twice, maybe a little more. They used to be, they were 6 times more a couple of years ago, and the prices dropped significantly, and off the top of my head, I can't remember what the individual costs were, but roughly twice as much.
Okay, that's close enough. Thank you.
They're coming down. We continue to see the price drop. So, again, we don't buy any of the HPS or any of those others. The only thing we buy now is streetlights are LEDs, and that's what replaces things in the field when they get replaced. So, we've made the transition, so to speak.
This annual thing from KU, it emphasizes and illustrates why it's so important that we formed KyMEA. We have one more round of this next year before we'll be operating without KU. We've got a motion, we have a second. We've had some discussion. Any more discussion? Anybody? Okay. Take this by member, vote yes is to approve the schedule of electric department increases effective July 1, 2017. The vote no would be to not approve. We'll call it by member.
Member Kuban?
Yes.
Member Baldwin?
Yes.
Member Green?
Yes.
Member Rosen?
Yes.
Member Lovett?
Yes. Okay. Next item is consider approving proposed water increase. David.
I decided to get up, come up to the podium.
Okay.
The 2016 cost of service study indicated that the revenue streams for the water department continue to fall short of revenue requirements. In addition, our reserve levels, together with ongoing and future projects, indicate that additional revenue increases will be required. In an effort to minimize larger future rate increases, staff has recommended, and the board's been following through, with smaller annual incremental rate increases. As a matter of course, the board approved notice of public hearing on May 16th, and we conducted the public hearing on June the 6th. No oral or written comments were received at that time. Staff recommends that the board approve the proposed water rates increase effective August 1st, 2017, or as soon thereafter as that material may be presented to the City Commission pursuant to House Bill 1. I wanted to remind our customers that we're talking about $1.90 per month increase the average residential city customer. The takeaway that I want our customers to remember is that we are putting water into your home for about $1 a day. You compare that to going to a convenience store and buying a high-end bottled water, it's a pretty good bargain. It's happy to answer any questions.
David's always able to bring it home, you know. I move we approve the rate, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Discussion. The most unpleasant thing we do in the plant board is have to raise a rate. Any more discussion? If not, we'll call this, because it's rate increase, we'll call it by member. Vote yes is to adopt the schedule of water rates that's been published and is in our packet this evening. Vote no would be to not adopt it.
Member Kuban,
Yes.
Member Baldwin,
Yes.
Member Green.
Yes.
Member Rosen,
Yes.
Member Lovett.
Yes. All right, motion carries. Agenda item number 12 is an action item. Consider approving 1, business telephone features, and 2, business telephone services. David?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Staff recommends the approval of the proposed additional features and services to the FPB Cable Telecom business phone lineup. These additional features and services have been requested by existing and potential customers and will be optional to FPB business telephone customers. The board approved a public hearing on May 16th, 2017, and that public hearing was conducted on June 6, 2017 regarding these additional features and services. No public comments were received. If approved, the additional features and services would be available August 1st, 2017 to FPB business telephone customers.
Again, David, it's important to emphasize that all of this is optional. It's for the customer if they want it or if they don't want it.
Setting new rates for optional business telephone features and services.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I move we approve the rates, and adopt the schedule.
I'll second that. Discussion. Okay, if none, we'll call this by member also. Vote yes is to adopt this schedule. Vote no is to not adopt it.
Member Kuban,
Yes.
Member Baldwin,
Yes.
Member Green.
Yes.
Member Rosen.
Yes.
Member Lovett.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Next item, it's an annual item, comes around and it's extremely important. Reflects an enormous amount of work on the part of a large number of people. And that is to consider approving the fiscal year 17-18 fiscal year budget and the 5-year plan.
Yes, Mr.
David?
Ludwig. I've, just to give a little quick summary for everyone, we had a budget work session with the board, kind of kicked off the process back on March 27th. And we've had budget meetings in detail, taking some information and thoughts from that work session and had meetings on June 6th and 7th. So we have got a revised version from what you saw back on the 6th and 7th. We've included some of the ideas and suggestions from the board. We mentioned a few mistakes we've caught and corrected in this as well, but we're asking the board to approve this budget for 17-18 and accept the 4-year plan. And I'll just turn it over to you, sir, for get another year started.
I move, Mr. Chairman, that one, like you said, to commend David for the hard work he and his staff did. And I think we've had a good budget process. We spent a lot of hours in work sessions and drafts. And David says he's put the changes in. I think whatever page that's on, you're calling it board initiatives. I think you have a list of 6 or 7 things that the board asked to be included, and they're in there.
Yes, sir.
And was there anything that the board asked for that's not in there to be included?
No, everything that is on page 8, those initiatives are in there. We mentioned a few corrections that we'd found of over budgeting for certain things, but other than putting these in, that's the major change.
I move we adopt, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Page 202.
That's where I am. Making a final fly over here.
The only note I would make on the third bullet point says FPB staff will research the feasibility of using company data centers for co-location. I think when the board had that discussion, we also indicated about doing a space analysis. So you may want to add in the word co-location and space analysis. Also space analysis.
The staff had recommended that the primary focus of Cable Telecom Division through fiscal year 2018 should be the outside plant infrastructure improvements. Those improvements would replace end-of-life amplifiers and line extenders, which has an immediate impact on system reliability. Those replacements would increase the system capability to provide faster and more reliable broadband off of potentially required 4K broadcast TV station channels to the customers. How does that fit into this budget? Are we, where's the primary focus going to be on this this infrastructure improvements? Are we, our head-end loan provided for was taken with the idea that we were going to use, I think it was $3 million on infrastructure improvements outside of that building.
Yes, sir. We had
Is that
3.2 million.
still the idea?
Out of the
Is there-
3.2 million above the building, we've spent $1.5 million already. And there was a remaining 1.7 in the budget with all other things combined. It's on page 19 of the budget. And if you look in the lower right-hand corner, it's the plant improvements, line 40. Page 213 of your board packet. I think, and I can let John speak to this as well, I think the idea we talked to in the budget meetings was for the report to come out from the consultants, engineering associates, and then decide how to move forward at that point.
Because isn't there, what, 1.7 left to spend of the three?
Are we saying that we're going to stop spending on the existing infrastructure until we get this report? Is that what?
That's the direction that staff took. If you look on page 213 on line 40, where it says plant repair and improvements, there's 2.180 million. About 1.6 or so of that, 1.6 million is for the actual amplifiers and line extenders themselves and that equipment. The remaining is potential contract labor to help us move that project along. As we came out of the budget meeting on whatever day that was, June 7th, I guess, staff was of the understanding that we needed to kind of wait, not take it out of the budget, but wait until the engineering associates presented their findings to the board, and then we would take it up at that time. So we left it in at the August meeting.
Okay, August. Okay.
Yes, sir. So we left it in, and under the provision that we would revisit this issue at the August meeting or soon thereafter, after receiving the report. So that's what we did.
But we think we'll have a draft July 4th.
They said they'd have the draft to us pretty soon, and then what they wanted is some back and forth with the Frankfort Plant Board, with staff and with board, before they got the final presentation together for the August meeting. I expect to stay on track. Actually, Ms. Rosen asked us to ask them if they could move that along a little bit, and to be honest with you, they just couldn't.
Oh.
So they've got other jobs going on right now, I guess, and they just said that was the time frame they were going to need to stick with.
Okay.
So,
Well, thank you for following up on that.
No problem. So I was hopeful, but it didn't work out that way. So we plan to get back to you, and so we've left it in.
Okay, so we have a motion second. We had recommendation by Herbie that we modify one thing to on the space study space.
I amend my motion to adopt the budget as presented with the amendment that Mr. Bannister suggested.
Valuation of space needs.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any more discussion, folks?
I just want to mention I was very pleased with the whole process for the budget this year. I thought that was good.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This might be a perfect opportunity. I want to say something. I appreciate it. I want to give express my appreciation to the finance department, Andrea, Angela, Katrina, Charlie, and Jennifer. They do a great job every day. There is so much attention to detail that's needed to keep things moving, and they allow me to be able to give timely, accurate financial information to you all that I can stand by and feel comfortable in. So I appreciate that, and all the staff. It is really a company-wide effort, again, to get this budget developed together and to make sure not only do we have nice numbers on paper, but we can execute that plan. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well, I also want to express my appreciation to everybody that takes part in this budgeting process. And I know it reaches way down in the company. There's a lot of people work very hard on it. And then David comes and presents it and works on it. And it's a big job. And I think the way the recent years have come about, budgeting, I think, has been very successful. Our actual performance over the last few years has come very close to budgeting. And we've never found ourselves in a situation of stress or what are we going to do for money. You prepare the budget conservatively, and I, for one, appreciate that.
He really enjoys it, Mr. Chairman.
I know, sure do. So we have our motion, and we have our second, and it's amended. And any more discussion? If not, we'll call it by member, since it's a budget, most important thing we do. Probably. Okay, a vote yes is to adopt this budget. Vote no would be to not adopt it.
Member Cuban?
Yes.
Member Baldwin?
Yes.
Member Green?
Yes.
Member Rosen?
Yes.
Member Lovett?
Yes. All right. Okay. Next item is an action item. Consider executing a contract with Whitehouse Concrete Construction to construct a sidewalk and a bus pad for the admin building.
Good evening again. During the May board meeting, it was requested that staff research constructing a sidewalk to the front of the building. I followed through and received 3 quotes on that, which are listed there in your board package. The lowest bidder was Whitehouse Concrete Construction for $7,975. You have an exhibit in your board package to review. We're going to the bus stop will be located here at the intersection of Sauer and Flynn. The city, when they heard that we were going to construct a sidewalk, they asked if we would construct the bus pad for them. They would come in and actually install a shelter for us. So they're working on that part of it now. So I wanted to bring the exhibit and the contractor in there for you, and if the board approves, we'll proceed with that contract. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Would you want to include in this the bike rack?
We did some research. That's another thing we can follow up on. I think that's something support services can do. It's Leanne and Mark Redmond looked up some prices, and it's a matter of a few $100s. So I think that it's a very small amount. So we just need to decide where we want to put it, and we'll proceed with that as well.
So it would just come out of the support services budget?
If that's a question
What
for
do you
Mark.
Okay. Okay.
I move we approve the proposal, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second that. Discussion. I think it's a nice touch. It's neat. It's one of these details at the end, just like building a house.
Yeah.
Well, I commend Herbie too, because I know Herbie spent a lot of time working with the city on the bus, where the bus can come back here, make the turn, so forth. And I think this was the best option after you had the meetings, wasn't it, Herbie?
Yes, sir. The city got back with us and indicated that due to the length of their buses, they didn't feel like they could make the turnabout in a safe manner, and so the best alternative is to locate the bus stop near the intersection of Flynn and Sauer, and we'll proceed in that manner.
Okay, well, I sense consensus on this. So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Hearing no no's. Motion carries. Okay, next item is an action item. Present City of Frankfort comments on the admin building.
Okay. The city of Frankfort visited our site probably about maybe a month or 2 ago and reached out to us with some recommendations for some additional plantings that we could do on our site. I followed up with Gary Mueller, and we walked through the site, and some of the comments that he suggested were, and it's within the zoning regulations as well, is parking, on your exhibit, I'll just refer to this exhibit here. You see, I have red dots all over it. Basically, he suggested a tree at the end of every parking row. So if you look at our rear parking lot and you see all those circles, that's basically where he suggested us planting some trees. He also said that for any parking row that's greater than 17 spaces, there should be a landscape island. So if you see that very back parking space, the red blocked one facing the PSC, that would be the proposed parking landscape island, which I just centered it in that parking row. And if you go to the front of the building there, you'll see another little rectangle in a parking space, and that will also be a proposed landscape island as well. Also along that front parking row, I kind of have a thin little drawn arrow in there. Any parking lot or parking row that's facing a street, they recommend a hedgerow, and that consists of 18-inch plantings 3 feet apart along that whole front row, and it also includes planting a tree every 25 feet in front of that parking row as well. So we would be planting, that would require 50 shrubs. We were looking at boxwoods, and 7 trees will be planted along that front parking row facing Flynn. I've been reaching out to nurseries. I've reached out to both the two that are here in Frankfort, and I've reached out to 2 or 3 in Lexington, and I've been getting quotes on trees and shrubs and so forth. But so far, they've all responded that a lot of this is, and it's the same thing we did when we were originally doing our plantings for this site. The best time to plant is in the fall, and some of those trees won't be available till then. So I don't have a full cost. So this is kind of an informational / action item. I just want to let you know that I am pursuing getting the plantings, following up with the trees, the landscape island, and the shrubs. And I just want to make sure get board direction. Do you want me to continue to do that? And we'll continue to get prices, and I'll work within our guidelines, our purchasing policy. If I can get it less than 20,000, we can get 3, at least minimum of 3 quotes. If it ends up being more, then it'll be a bid, and I'll bring it back to the board for approval.
Well, that sounds good. I agree that planning in the fall is a good idea.
Okay, and just one more note. Mr. Cubine mentioned contacting Jim Parrish with the city. They are more on the maintenance side. They don't do plantings, but he did come and visit the site with me, and he actually gave me some tree recommendations and the shrub recommendations, and they're all on the city list. So if you're interested in trees, I can list them, tell you what trees they recommended. And I also sent this proposal to Gary Mueller to see if he felt comfortable with what we plan to do, and they both said they were happy with it. It looked like a good plan for them.
I mean, add, Mr. Chairman, I was in a meeting today where Bill May spoke, the mayor, and apparently he gave us a major compliment. Apparently we've given the city property at East Frankfort, and apparently they grow trees there that are recommended for Frankfort that won't get into our power lines. And they have trees growing of the species that they recommend for this area that are also good for power lines, if that's such a thing, Vin. But he actually said that because of that, businesses can go there, see the trees that grow well here, and they have them, I guess, on display somewhat back there. And he was very complimentary that we've apparently worked with him to set that up.
Well, I walked that area with Mark Redmond last year, and most of them are marked, and they're shorter varieties.
Trees that are good for power lines, that's kind of
well.
Well, apparently there are certain types that are absolutely not good for power lines that apparently these are short trees.
Yeah, if they're the bad kind, we can shorten them for you.
Okay.
No, these are the short ones. They're actually, it's called a utility arboretum, is the actual name for it. And I think there's about 40 different items up there that are right outside the service center. It's up there. So yeah, you can come by anytime and look at those.
Sure, mister, I think you're right on track.
All right. Oh, and one more lesson. I think one more thing that they mentioned was the sign, where it's located there, their entrance. And Tom Bradley, with the city engineer with the city of Frankfort, said that they didn't see any safety concerns with the sign where it is located. But I have been working with Alan Smith with the water department. If it is possible, there's a lot of utilities over there, and then we have the drainage ditch as well. If it is possible, we'll work on adjusting it, see if we can pull it back. So that's something that's in progress as well. So basically, I just wanted to present where we are, and we're proceeding in that direction if the board wants me to continue to do that. And come fall, we'll start getting some of these planted.
Do we actually need that sign? I mean, can we just remove it? We've got the sign on the side of the building and the sign at the top of the hill.
It just has our name and address on it.
Yeah.
So
It's so close to the street, you don't really get to see it until you're already making the corner.
And that's why Gary recommended turning it so people could see it coming in, and that's what we're working on now. So if that's something that you'd like us to go ahead and proceed with, we'll do that as well. That's no problem.
And on the second one, that's a little further in, as you're leaving, you see the back of that sign is just blank. We
Mhm.
could possibly write something on it like, thank you, or,
That's, yeah, it's basically just
Um,
apply vinyl lettering to it. That
Sure.
works for the outdoors, so yeah, we
Mhm.
can do, that's easy enough to
Yeah.
do. We did put up a little thank you sign as you walk out our door. We actually put that up today for thank you for visiting the Frankfort Plan Board, but yeah, we can,
Okay.
is that something you want me to proceed with as well, or I can do that?
I think
Okay.
so.
No problem.
And related to this, I have one other thing. It's not exactly trees and shrubs, but I had contacted Chief Keith Chastain, who's with the Army Corps of Engineers in Louisville, and he's been working with replacing landscape plantings, mainly lawn, with pollinator-friendly plants. And Mark and I talked a little bit about this and decided it would be good to have a presentation by him for the maintenance staff. And I also talked to Jim Parrish and Charlie Lewis with the county parks about a time and date. And so we've tentatively planned, or well, closer than tentatively, for July 11th to have Keith come and talk here in this room at 10 o'clock in the morning so that all the staff can come and learn about these ideas, although they're already somewhat aware. And one question along this line is, do other board members want to come? Do we need to list it as a board meeting? Okay, James is saying yes.
Have a quorum to attend, yes.
Okay, well, are there board members interested in attending 10 a.m. on Tuesday, July 11th?
I'll be out of town that week.
Okay.
I need to get better acquainted with my office at times. so-
Okay. So, John, you might be interested?
I usually have something on Tuesdays.
Oh.
I can look and see if I can change, but I usually have something on.
Oh, well, it's
on
not-
every Tuesday.
It's not mean that you're committed to coming, it just
Okay.
means if we aren't gonna have a quorum show up, then we don't have to, we just publicize it and it's open to the public as an informational, educational meeting.
It appears as though we would not have a quorum, so
Okay,
let's
good.
proceed.
We'll go ahead
Won't
with
have to
that.
have- Won't have to have an official meeting.
July 11th, and we're hoping to tape it as well, so you could speed watch it.
And the members can check with each other beforehand to make sure we're not blundering into it.
Right.
If we're blundering in, someone has to get out of the building
That's right.
real quick and drive quick.
That's right.
Yes.
Okay, good.
I'm a little unclear on where we ended up with the sign in question.
Oh.
So does the board want us to remove that sign or adjust its angle or move it backwards? What does the board want us to do?
And I guess my thought is that I don't really see the purpose of it, but.
But if it can be turned at no cost and do what Anna Marie said about putting, some
Well,
kind of message on the back, then
Kinda
I think we
two
give it a
signs.
try. I mean, we've already got there, we might as well see what that looks like, and if it's still a problem, then we can deal with it, but it's there. And if we can turn it a little bit, is the top hooked to the base, or it just sits on top?
I think it's just, have you looked at, is it just bolted onto the top? Here.
I think it has a footer on it. We
Yeah.
want to look at backing down. We gotta get locates, but we might just try to open the hole up beside the footer and move it with a piece of equipment, kind of scoot it back and turn it a little bit. So we didn't really have to dig, we just had to dig the side and scoot it.
I mean, I think since we've already got it, we ought to see if we can make it more usable.
I like having the address there just for deliveries and so forth, so people using their, that maybe aren't familiar with where the building is.
Okay. So I guess where we left it is to see about pivoting or repositioning. And then the back might work for the second sign, maybe once it's pivoted it wouldn't work, but just a concept.
Okay.
You never go get rid of this building, right?
I don't think so. All right, thank you.
Okay, now we have some contract actions coming up here. First one is to consider award a bid invitation number 1639, annual price contract for water treatment chemicals. Leanne?
Good evening. Staff prepares an annual bid for the chemicals used in water treatment. The bid includes estimated quantities and also explains that orders could exceed or fall short of the estimates. Vendors bid with the understanding that the bid's purpose is to hold unit price throughout the fiscal year. This bid received 24 responses. Staff reviewed each bid and recommends awarding to the low bidders meeting specifications, with the exception of the powder activated carbon and the bulk sodium, and the explanations are also listed. The liquid ferric chloride to PBS Technologies, the liquid sodium hydroxide to Univar, polyaluminum chloride to USALCO, powder activated carbon to Calgon Carbon. the hydrofluorosilicic acid to Penco, anhydrous ammonia to Airgas, potassium to Chemrite, sulfuric acid to Chemical Resources, zinc orthophosphate to Shannon Chemical, the OSG sodium chloride to Morton Salt, and the water softener salt to Chemical Resources. As of May 31st, 2017, the chemical purchase totaled $330,244 for the year with 1 month remaining. Staff has requested $400,000 in the proposed budget for the chemical purchases.
Are these all vendors we've used before?
I think there may be one or two that we have not.
But we have a track record with most of them.
Mm-hmm.
I move we adopt the recommendation, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I second that. It's amazing with commodity chemicals how the prices will fluctuate. 50% fluctuation, 33% from last year.
Even salt.
Yeah. So it's really, really important to get bids, you know. Okay, do we have consensus on this? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Hearing no nos. The contract is approved. Next item is also a contract for bid invitation number 1635, annual price contract for tree trimming services to Asplundh Tree Expert Company. This is the one I can never pronounce the name. It's Asplundh.
We can't either.
First thing I do with that company is I change its name if I was running that company.
The plant board's existing tree trimming contract will expire on June 30th, 2017. After evaluating all the bids, staff recommends awarding to Asplundh Tree Expert Company as they are the low bidder meeting specifications. Pricing for the upcoming year includes a 33% increase from last year. This bid invitation was sent to 6 companies with 2 responses, 1 late response which wasn't accepted, and 1 that was a no bid response. This contract includes 2 full-time crews and 1 part-time crew used during the growing season to help with hot spots and annual spraying crew, but does not include any overtime resulting from storms and incidents that require them to perform additional work. As of May 31st, 2017, the plant board has spent $634,422 between the cable and electric department for tree trimming services. The proposed budget for 2017-2018 includes $575,000 for the electric department and $175,000 for the cable department. Budgeted amounts include the contract price as well as historically estimated overtime. This new contract will run from July 1, 2017 through June 30, 2018. The contract has an annual renewal option for up to 5 years, and the staff attorney has reviewed the contract and it meets his approval.
I'm just glad, Mr. Chairman, I was surprised, and Vince, you've talked about this before, and John, even though the contract went up 33, I was surprised at the price differences between the vendors. I mean, it was a big, as your favorite name, was way cheaper than, or less expensive, I don't want to say cheap.
They always have been. They always have been.
Yeah.
And my understanding, I've always been told by staff that they do such a good job. Steve Cunningham, I think, monitors.
I move we approve the contract, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Hearing no nos, contract stands approved. Number 18 is an action item. Consider award of bid invitation number 1637, annual price contract for ductile iron pipe, ductile iron fittings, valves, hydrants, and tapping sleeves to Ferguson Waterworks and Hayes Pipe Company.
Most of Frankfort Plant Board's ductile iron pipe, the iron fittings, the valves, hydrants, and tapping sleeves are purchased from an annual price contract. The material is kept in the Plant Board's inventory and needs to be replenished periodically. Orders for this material depends on new development and the maintenance and repair of old material. Vendors bid with the understanding that they are locking in unit pricing for the year and not for a certain quantity of material. This year's bid invitation was sent to 14 vendors with 4 responses. After evaluating all bids, staff recommends awarding the pipe, valves, hydrants, and tapping sleeves to Ferguson Waterworks as they were the low bidder meeting the specifications. Staff recommends awarding the fittings to Hayes Pipe as they are the low bidder. The bid states that each category would be awarded on an all or none basis. Pipe prices are down 5.9%, fittings are down 19.7%, valves are also down at 5.4%, and hydrants are up 12.8%, and the tapping sleeves are down 5.7%. As of June 12th, the plant board has purchased approximately $115,674 from the current contract.
Well, this is something we buy as needed, right? The amount that we needed, and we always try to keep some in
We keep some
inventory
on hand.
On hand at all times, yeah. Okay. We have a motion?
I move we approve the contract, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second it. Discussion. If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Okay. Next item is also an action item. Consider award of bid invitation number 1636, annual price contract for the purchase of wood poles to the T.R. Miller Mill Company. Want to see what a telephone pole costs?
That was a big differential on those prices too. The low bidder was, from a competitive standpoint. Yeah.
Frankfort Plant Board's inventory of wood poles is purchased from an annual price contract. These poles are ordered as needed to maintain inventory levels. The bid is to obtain the best price and to hold pricing for the entire fiscal year. Staff estimates the quantity of poles on the annual bid, and the vendors bid with the understanding that orders may exceed or fall short of the estimated quantities. Staff reviewed all bids and recommends awarding to T.R. Miller Mill Company, as they are the lowest bid meeting specifications. As of June the 1st, Frankfort Plant Board has purchased approximately $51,687 in wood poles from the current contract, and the new pricing reflects a price decrease of 3.8%.
Okay. All right, do we have a motion?
I move we approve the contract.
Do we have a second? You have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Hearing no no's. Motion carries.
I think we ought to state, Mr. Chairman, that based on this information, Denton's already running a surplus.
Okay. We'll keep a tally on these surpluses.
That's right.
Next item is the last action item. It's consider renewal of cable installation services to Custom Cable Services.
Custom Cable has offered, I think the cable guy would know how to turn on a microphone. Sorry about that. Custom Cable has offered to extend its pricing terms and conditions of bid invitation 1623 for another 12 months ending on June 30th, 2018. These services are needed to assist in the installation of cable TV, telephone, and broadband products in the Cable Telecom Department. Custom Cable has successfully provided these services to FPB for several years and has met all the requirements of the bid specs. Staff has budgeted $250,000 for these services for fiscal year 18 and expects to utilize all the available funds for the assistance in the installation of these services.
John, how does this work? These are the same services that we have 2 new headcount that we're going to hire into this year, is that right?
Correct. Yeah, the way we've budgeted for this and talking with the board over the course of this fiscal year was to look to hire 2 apprentice installers. And with the approval of the budget a little bit earlier, I expect to be in HR tomorrow morning, trying to start that process. Typically, it's a 12 to 15 month lead time for that apprentice to be self-reliant, to be by themselves and be able to provide this. We're going to try and compress that a little bit. We don't expect, truthfully, for Diane and her staff to really be able to get this done any quicker than probably September. That's just pretty much the process. And so we're going to do our best to attract the best employees that we can, hopefully that have some skills, that we can move that process along before June 30th. We've had a significant amount of turnover in that department over the course of this fiscal year. We hadn't lost anybody in 8 years. And since July, we've lost 5 of the 11 to either promotions or to other departments. And like I said during the budget, we lost Steve Forrest back at Thanksgiving time. So we've had we have a lot less experience than we used to. And we're putting a lot of pressure on Dana and Kevin and that staff to get this done a year from now. But this is something that we think we can do. We budgeted $325,000 for the last few years for this, so we've cut this back a little. And looking at the numbers to date through, I think June 15th is the most recent billing we have. We've expended about $270,000 of the $325,000. We expect to probably expend another 12 or so thousand these last couple of weeks of this fiscal year. So it's not really going to be that much of a scale back on our year to date, I don't think. But yeah, you just never know how one year goes versus the other.
So what happens if we're able to get those resources up to speed and independent in 6 months? Is there flexibility in here to roll those contracting resources off?
Yeah, the agreement itself doesn't guarantee any work.
Okay.
Doesn't guarantee any dollar amount. And we've used this group for a long time. I think we pretty much go month to month, and we kind of lay out what we think the work's gonna look like. So yeah, you have no requirements in that. That would be a very great scenario to happen, to find somebody and to get them up to speed that quickly. It's not our experience in seeing that, but you can always hope.
If it happens, we have the flexibility.
If it
to deal
happens,
with it.
we've got the flexibility to deal with it.
Diane, what's the job market or the salaries for these positions? Is there good applicants out there? Is it going to be tough to recruit? I mean,
Let me defer to John on that. We did have a cable installer that started Monday, and I know we have another one starting July, I think 5th, right after the 4th, and well, maybe Dana could answer out on how many candidates there were. But I think it was hard to get the last.
Yeah, we're not seeing the candidates that we used to see. But fortunately, we've been through the last several months and going through the process. And so far, we came up with some pretty goodness that we got in so far.
We're hopeful. The young man that started yesterday was to replace somebody that moved to got a promotion in early February. So it's taken a while. And the young man that starts in early July is to replace somebody that took a position in the electric department in April, March. But he's not actually moving over until July.
It was at least that maybe.
Yeah, so it's taken, 3 and 4 months to find qualified and acceptable candidates. So, I think the starting pay for the apprentice is $14 and change, I think, $14 and something. I don't think our department from an apprentice standpoint or entry level is any different than any other. I think it's just difficult.
thank you.
Okay. Any motions?
Move we approve the contract, sir.
Second.
Discussion? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Hearing no no's, stands approved. Okay, next item is number 21 already, old and new business. Action item, discussion.
I'm sorry, I don't know whether this is old business or new business, but I'd like to recommend that in the future, when Mr. Kubine and Mr. Baldwin get together, that they notify the Secretary Treasurer so that he or she can inform the other members of the board.
I'm not quite sure I understand.
Yeah.
Well, it's required by the statutes that the Secretary Treasurer be informed so that he or she can inform the other board members that a meeting is being held.
Well, when it's just 2 board members, I
No,
didn't think that was a
it doesn't
meeting.
say that. It says 2 board members can call a meeting, provided the Secretary Treasurer be informed and they notify the others.
But is that
James, do you have any comment?
I've heard James.
I have to think about that just a little bit. It obviously depends on your definition of meeting, as opposed,
I mean, two board members can call a meeting, but 3 have to be there for it to actually be a quorum and be a meeting, right?
Yes, and I'm not sure about a notice requirement.
But can 2 board members, are you saying, Kai, that 2 board members can't talk?
2 board members can call a meeting.
No, can they talk? That's not calling a meeting. Can 2 board members talk without calling a meeting?
I don't
was
know.
in the impression-
Did all this information come in here by just talking, or was it a meeting at jail?
We talked. I mean,
All these 11 things that you got together was
I
just
think it
talk?
was an outgrowth of meeting with E3.
yeah.
I'm just telling you.
I mean, I'd be happy to whatever the law
I'm
is,
just
but
telling you
I've never understood that to be the law.
The statute says that the Secretary Treasurer has to be informed, even though 2 people want to have a meeting.
I guess the question is, what constitutes a meeting?
And if you're talking about can two board members talk for the purpose, two board members can't conduct business. It takes three. Two members can ask for a meeting, and then you can have a public meeting to which you can conduct business. But I'd say, and I'm more than happy to go with any rule we want to adopt, but I'd say if we're going to apply that anytime any two board members of any of this board ever talk to each other, then I'm fine, but everybody needs to apply to that.
My understanding is exactly what you said. Our bylaws and so forth state any two members can put an item on the agenda.
Right.
So agenda means meeting, has to. Okay. But I'm not aware of any prohibitions against a couple of members talking.
I mean, as far as that, I was in Ralph's office the other day. Is that a meeting? If so, I should have notified you that I went to Ralph's office.
It would
I
become
rode to
impossible,
with
to,
Ralph
so
to-
difficult, you'd be just unable to communicate. It just-
And I was with Anna Marie up at Tanglewood, so is that a meeting?
I don't know what you call a meeting. It just says when two people call a meeting.
But we didn't call it. A meeting is the public meeting as defined in the statute, not two people talking. I mean, I defer to legal counsel, but I don't think we're on the right path on this one, but if they want to give us a legal opinion and say it, I'll be gladly to adhere to it. If that's what the law says, I don't think it is. So are you going to give us an opinion? Seriously?
Yes, if we need an opinion, but
I think we do.
obviously two board members can speak to each other,
Mhm.
and it doesn't rise to the level of a meeting.
Mhm.
But we can look into it a little bit further just to be sure everybody's clear.
Well, it's not speaking to each other. It's when you come up with an agenda like this, that's a meeting that you held and got together to put this program together.
How's that any
To put
different?
these together.
How's it any different when only two of us meet with Ralph and he rotates that to meet on the pre-board meeting agenda? How's that any different?
I don't know.
That's not noticed. If it is, let's start noticing. I'm all for it.
I'm just telling you what the statute says.
I don't think that's what statute
The
says.
statute says that if two board members could call a meeting,
Right, I agree with that.
and if so, they have to inform the Secretary of Treasury so that he can inform the rest of the members
Correct.
that the meeting is occurring.
Right.
Doesn't say they have to be there, but the meeting is occurring.
But if I go down to Ralph's office and talk to him, am I calling a meeting?
I'm not going to debate that point, but if you.
But that's the point.
Of course it's not. It's when you call a meeting.
No, that is the point. Is that a meeting when I go to Ralph's office?
I'm not an attorney, I don't know.
But you're calling a statute. I mean, that's a pretty serious charge. Let's get it out here.
Are we referring to the bylaws as opposed to a state statute?
State statute.
I get that impression.
State statute.
There's a state statute? I'm gonna have to look at that.
Yeah, okay.
Don't have them all memorized, but something we need to take a look at.
There is a provision in state statute, it's okay to have business discussions, which don't rise to the level of a meeting. I don't know how that fits into the question.
And we do have provisions in our bylaws for
Yeah.
two members to call a
Call a
meeting.
meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Let us look into that and
I think we need an opinion very quickly. Let's resolve this week.
We can do some research.
Tomorrow. Let's resolve it tomorrow. Seriously.
Because we might talk to each other.
Well, yeah. We might talk to each other on the 11th.
there's clearly no prohibition in two board members speaking to each other.
No.
We can give you that opinion right now.
Okay, is that your,
That's it.
okay. Action item, discussion of KYMEA non-disclosure agreements.
Didn't we
Mr.
talk
Chairman, I
about
think that was added
Okay.
in light of some of the previous conversations that had been happened over the past few days about that item. In case we wanted to talk about it, we thought it was going to come up. So in light of the conversations that have already happened, I don't know that it would need it, but of course, that's the board
Do we need
decision.
it?
I think based on what we adopted earlier and based on what Charlie said they're going to be talking about at KyMEA this week, I think.
Yeah, tying it down.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just answer that quickly.
Oh, sir.
The board will take it up for consideration tomorrow. Now, I can tell you how they're going to vote. I can tell you my recommendation to the board is, yes, let's make this as easy as possible for the members. But I cannot tell you how, and it's not tomorrow, it's Thursday. I sure got my days mixed up. But I can't tell you if they will adopt it or not, number one. Number two, even if they do adopt it, I think what's being proposed is that there must be a similar adoption by the Frankfort, in this case, the Frankfort Plant Board, to follow that policy, to adopt that policy for information that would come from KYMEA. It's a simple process. But that's going to take a little while. For all that to happen, it's going to take a board meeting of KYMEA and a board meeting of the Frankfort Plant Board. If you want the information tomorrow, all you gotta do is sign this non-disclosure agreement. And Mr. Liedman has the, authority to deliver this information to you. The non-disclosure agreement is nothing more than acknowledging that this information is confidential, that if you get a public request for an open records, you'll notify KYMEA so that KYMEA and or the person who has given the information can try and object to that happening. It's a very simple process. You can share the information with your consultants, your attorneys, your auditors, whomever. Okay, but it does explain what the confidential information is and how certain things are to be addressed in handling the information. I mean, it's the same agreement, for example, that Owensboro Municipal Utilities signed to get the same information. So there's nothing special about it as to Frankfort. It's the standard non-disclosure agreement that KYMEA asks its members to sign in this situation.
But
So,
is it going to cover future requests for information?
No.
Or we're going to do this every time?
we would do this every time unless if we have, as I said, if KYMEA changes its policy and says adopt a similar policy and then you don't ever have to sign anything, that's the thing. That will happen. That would be what would happen in the future if Frankfort adopted a similar policy. I guess what I'm saying is that's probably 60 days away, or at least 35 to 40 days away. And I honestly think that it would have been very beneficial for your consultants, E3, if they had had this information when they were working on the report. I firmly believe that. And all we're saying is just sign it. I mean, y'all take a look at it. I mean, it's nothing special to it, just acknowledging that it's confidential information. So, I mean, that way, if it's signed, the information is immediately available. Otherwise, it's going to take a meeting of the Frankfort Plant Board as well as the KYMEA Board to adopt a new policy.
Do you need any motions or discussion on it? I mean, as explained, it seems benign enough and reasonable.
Well, I think the problem is just that it takes so long to get an information request. You have to go through 2 or 3 no's before you get to the point of getting the NDA. We've still got another information request out that hasn't had an NDA produced for it.
Mr. Bowler, the NDA has all the requests that you've asked for. You've asked for 4 different things. They're all in that NDA. The moment your other request came in,
You amended the
revised
NDA?
that.
I haven't seen the amended NDA.
I mean, it's here before the board. I do need to reflect on that. 2 of the requests, we're still compiling that information. As soon as it's compiled, we'll send that to Frankfort. It takes the consultants quite some time to be able to get those on the issues.
Do we have a motion on this?
I don't think so. I think it's covered in the earlier action item.
I just hate to see things bogged down, and I think they need to move along as quickly as they can.
Well, if I understand it correctly, it sounds like KYMEA, Charlie, is looking at streamlining the process. That, that you're looking at streamlining the non-disclosure process so that it covers everything in the future. So that's in process.
It's in process.
Okay.
I mean, it will be brought before the board on Thursday.
Okay.
Okay, let's see what they do.
Yep.
Any more old and new business?
I've got one more just clarification point. We adopted the E3 report, and I guess I'd like to just formally ask staff to have that report and all the presentations from the June 13 meeting put on the website.
Okay, any more old and new business?
And on the website would be
The-
redacted.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, information item, general manager's comments. Okay. Let's see if my members will let me call a closed session. Chairman requests permission to have a closed session pursuant to KRS 61810(1)(c) for the discussion of proposed or pending litigation for liquidated damages regarding administration construction contracts.
Do we have a second item? We're not gonna have,
No,
That's all
Just
I
one.
have.
just one. Do we have a motion for closed session?
we'll go into closed session.
Do we have a second?
I second it.
Okay, all in favor? Say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Where should we meet for our closed session? This is the first time we've had a closed session in the new location.
Meet here, but we would only want essential personnel
Okay,
involved,
okay,
board members and relevant staff.
okay. All right, well, that'd be more convenient, so we'll give it a few minutes here and then we'll have a closed session.
Copy of the resolution.